Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Enlighten Up podcast. Today, I have a brand new guest, Peter Benson, who actually has a background in automotive mechanic and engineering. However, Peter went through a very significant awakening process that opened up his connection to his higher self and the angelic realm. He discovered his angelic origins as part of Archangel Michael's army of light. Guided by Archangel Michael and his ascended masters, Peter was introduced to the Tensor technology and all of its healing properties. He conducted a series of research that led him to build his first Tensor Rings and crystal-infused pendants, Merkaba healing coil, and so much more. He is a global speaker and CEO of Energies of Service. The powerful copper healing and grounding tools that he has crafted are inspired and channeled from the quantum field of creation. His uniquely handmade products are attuned to help people heal, balance, and live in harmony with their energetic field, and they are truly energy tools for ascension and conscious living. Peter, welcome to the show. So much we got to talk about here. You're doing some good work.
Thank you, Nicole. It's been an amazing journey. Let's just say that.
Well, it sounds like it's been an interesting one. If you've started off as an automotive mechanic and engineering technician, and then had this significant awakening process. I mean, what age did that happen for you at?
Late 40s.
Late 40s. Okay, so you were just kind of going through life, doing your thing. Did you believe in angels and the quantum field and all that before that?
Not really. Not really. I started reading Brian Weiss and Michael Newton, and did some Dolores Cannon stuff, the regressions and getting some really interesting stories out of it. And then we went through a family restructuring, which actually put me in a completely different environment and had to rediscover everything. So that's where, at that point, I just started opening up. And it's like, okay, if all these books are correct, okay, what else is out there? And this is where the journey really started.
Okay. So did you have did this kind of happen over a period of time, or did you have this one? Okay. So it was a period of time where just a little bit started opening up even more and more.
Yeah. It became very obvious that there was a change coming in my life. And started doing the reading, understanding. I had a full Kundalini activation one night, just sitting meditating. And I'm like, okay, let's do that again, because that was really cool.
That's really interesting, because I've had a couple of Kundalini activations, some recently, but my first one was really scary. Was it scary for you, or was it really pleasant? What was it like?
I just went with it. I'm a water element, so I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let's just go with it, see where it goes. And when it was done, it was just like, oh, okay, that was interesting. I was like, okay, this was the meditation, and okay, I was trying to figure out everything about it, because the logical mind, my engineering side was like, okay, how do I replicate this? And I never was able.
How did you know it was a Kundalini activation? Like, what were you sensing and feeling in your body?
Oh, for me, it was just an overwhelming feeling of just unconditional love. And it went from all the way from my root all the way up, and it just opened right up.
Mm-hmm. It's really I don't I've had a couple of them, and the first one I had, I felt it starting at the root, and I could see light in my
Hmm.
spine through my third eye. I could see the light kind of moving up and expanding. I shut it down by the time it got to my heart because it was scaring me. I thought my heart was going to explode. I thought my head was going to pop off my body. Like, it was extremely powerful. But the last recent Kundalini activations that I've had in the last few months have been extremely pleasurable and loving, and you just feel completely at one with everything. Like you're in, it's almost like you're in love with the entire universe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the unconditional love aspect of it. Yep.
Yeah.
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 That's very cool. I get that a lot when Michael comes in, and he'll give me a message, and then he'll do that to me. And it's all of a sudden I can't talk. I can't speak, nothing comes out. I'm like, okay. And he almost like enjoys like basically locking me up in complete emotional overload.
Oh, so and is it during times where you really do need to speak, or?
Yeah. Yeah, it usually
Yeah.
is. It's like I have a message for somebody. He comes in, tells me the message, and then does that. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Okay, now here we go. Okay, I gotta compose myself, and then I can start talking again. But yeah,
Mm. So you're married.
yeah.
Is your wife, was she kind of into this before, or is she kind of gone on this journey with you when you opened up? Like, how has that kind of, has the paths merged together?
That's I was the family restructuring was that part where the my previous was not anywhere alignment of it. And I was trying to rediscover everything. My wife now, Vivian Chalvet, is very much into this. She's actually an Arcturian hybrid, so she is fully understanding of all aspects of energy and angelic realm and ETs and the whole nine yards. So it's amazing. So now I have full support. It's much more easier to understand, and questions I have, she can sometimes answer for them. So that's pretty cool.
So what was it like then when Archangel Michael first came to you? Did you understand what was happening? Like, did you hear him speak, or was it more just in your, like, a more of a telepathic kind of exchange?
Most of the time it's almost like just a quick download. I'll get a visualization, a kind of understanding, and then he'll come in with the overwhelming emotional, like unconditional love. And it just, after that point, I'm like, okay, got it. And I know where it came from.
Mm,
Metatron was the first one to come through for me, and that was
okay.
back in 2017.
And I guess so you're kind of picking up on their energy signature now. You're very familiar with their energy signature, so you know who it is just through that
First,
sensation.
yes and no, because I've had actually multiple archangels coming through, Shamuel, Metatron, Michael, and I'm not doubting any other ones.
Mhm.
They don't normally announce themselves. They'll just basically give me that little burst of emotional charge, and it's like, oh, here you go. I can tell when Michael comes through, it's a little bit more powerful. He's just there.
So they introduce you to Tensor energy.
That was actually on my probably did. So I won't exclude that. My path was when I was on trying to discover who I was again. I was like, okay, I need something to do because I was going through so much. I needed something to keep my mind busy while we were going through things. And I found Slim Sperling and Tensor technology, which just seemed really, really cool. Copper wire spun and cut and braised back onto itself, and it creates this energy field. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. I'm a mechanic. I've worked with copper. I've worked with torches. Not a problem. I can do all that.
Mhm.
So it took me a little bit. I started making them, and they weren't working at first either. Just so you know, it's like everybody can do it, but your intentions have to be there in order to make these tools really work. Um,
That's important for people to understand.
yeah. So if you, I mean, you can go out there. The technology, I mean, the technology is open source. Slim Sperling put it in his books, and there's other people out there explaining how to do it. But if your intentions aren't there, the power is not going to be there. So the power of the tool is really it's intention based. So if your intentions aren't there, the power is not going to be there for you. So it's really interesting on that aspect of these tools. So it took a little while for me to actually get them functioning.
Is there
Um,
anything specific that help kind of makes it more intention based so that it only operates at its true efficiency when the intentions are good and pure?
just during the creation phase. After that, the tools are intention-based tools. They'll have their base intention on them, and if the individual doesn't have like good intentions on them,
Hmm.
then the tools will be protective for even for them, but they won't enhance or manifest negative intentions.
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
positive tool, so that it's like some if somebody was working through their negative aspects of themselves and they needed to help, this will help them still, but they're not going to be able to continue on the negative path. It'll actually kind of push them in the right direction. It'll help protect them and clean them out.
So what was it like then when you first started creating them? What were you noticing was happening when you created them, and then were you wearing them or using them for specific reasons? I see you've got a pyramid behind you
Yeah,
too.
yeah, pyramid with a whole bunch of tensor rings up on there and a
Yeah.
merkaba. And so what was happening is as I was my intentions were getting clearer and clearer. So I was able to build them and make them work to manufacture them. Um, the issue was my emotional state was not in the proper place in order to feel them properly. So I had friends that when I went to a sound bath, she was able to actually feel everything that I was doing and all the tools that were being made. So that was really, really cool.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, and how I really knew that they were functioning is I was creating tensor rings and I gave her four of them to play with, and she does the sound bath. So she had 14 bowls, the chakras and higher chakras. So she had all the fancy crystal bowls and all that. And so she put the four tensor rings underneath the crystal bowls. And then 2 days later, she texts me, it's like, can you make me 10 more?
What
Um,
happened?
well, it's like it's like plugging an amplifier into a bowl. So they got louder, they resonated longer, and the sound changed to a more harmonic energy field. So yeah, and it just got way more powerful. So yeah, she did that, and then I made her a very large ring, which was about 8 feet wide. It was just 25 feet around. It was huge. Um, and we put that around all of her and her balls, and it amplified the entire set. Um, and when I was making that one, when I actually brazed that one together, I was standing in it because it was so big. When I brazed it together, and I as soon as I brazed it together, the energy just went right up my spine. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, okay, that one's on, and it's like, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so the sound amplification, I mean,
Yeah,
sound healing is truly part of our future.
yeah,
It's only going to become more and more understood and developed over time. You've also created, like you're wearing one right now, I can see
yeah,
around your neck. What's that
yeah.
one?
This one is actually a prototype. I'm working on getting these out to everybody. If you can see the reflection of the symbols in the middle, that's entity protection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me pull this off. I'll put it in the screen so you can see it easier. And it's designed from help with a friend of mine who actually had an entity attachment here. Let's see, switch screen here for you. And the one on the right here. You can see it's got the
Okay.
circle, the square, triangle, and circle. That
Yes.
those symbols and that orientation, that spacing creates a entity protection, like a shield. It's ancient understandings. It was actually doused in by a gentleman who passed away now. He passed away like 2, 3 years ago. And a friend of mine, to the point where he was wearing this every day because he was doing clearings. he was doing entity clearings on houses and people and stuff like that. And him and his group, and this is where built this and designed it. So what was happening is, as they were clearing them, people would be taking the entities home with them. So this would protect them from that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they were able to clear the spaces, the people, and all that. And when the entities tried to like come back with them and stay, come back to your own residence, this pendant and this protection allows you to actually just open the portal up and send them back to source. So that's on a negative aspect of, per se, of entities. On the positive side of entities, it actually creates like it almost like creates like a golden effect on you. It makes you look like like a glow light for the positive entities that want to go to source. So they'll come to you for help.
Oh, really?
And so at that point, you just basically, every once in a while, just open, say the prayer, open a portal, and say any entities in the vicinity. Here's your portal. Go back home. Wait 5 minutes or so. Close the portal, and it allows entities in the area to return to source.
Okay, and then that's important that you said that. It's so important that people understand how important it is to close the portal when you're done.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, it is extremely important to close the portal. Yeah.
I was watching the show. I don't know if you've seen the show His Dark Materials.
Haven't seen that one, no.
Okay, so it's got 3 seasons in it, and I believe somewhere in the 2nd season, the knife bearer comes in, and he's able to, it's this kid, and he's able to, when he holds this knife, pierce through worlds and open up portals that they can go into and enter in completely different worlds. And then, but the caveat is that you must, as being a responsible knife bearer, close every portal once you come through and not leave one open. And it's the reason being is because it leaks energy. And obviously it just creates doorways for things that maybe you don't want to come in, but also you lose energy and power.
Yes. The first time I had ever heard of portals and opening and closing them, and it was one that was actually talking about, this was years ago, when we had a negative, and this was long ago, we had a negative entity come into our home and attack my wife at the time.
Oh, really?
Left a scratch on her side. Yeah. So this negative entity was there. We cleared the house so that it wasn't there any longer, but we found out that we had mirrors that could be seen from a window. And through old Norse understanding, it's called the Helm of Awe. It looks like the Nordic compass.
Okay.
That one. And it's called the Helm of Awe. You put that on mirrors and it basically seals them so that nothing can come through without invitation, because all they have to do is look through the window into the mirror and they can enter. Even without permission.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, when you're kind of opening up to this entire world and you're going through your spiritual awakening, you're almost like a kid in a candy store. You want to try everything and you don't know how easily you're opening portals, like even unbeknownst to you. And when I was really going through, I think, a deep stage of my awakening in 2016, there were portals being used even through my water cooler that we know were, and so there's just so many different ways. So did you create then that kind of, what's it called, the Helm of Awe?
A Helm of Awe. Yeah, you can basically, you can download it and print them out and just use a piece of paper and stick it on a glass, on a window or on the mirror. You can get stickers on it, on Etsy or stuff like that. They're not very expensive, and they don't have to be big. They just have to be, just put it on there. It's just an energy shield. It just creates a block so that they can't open a portal through that medium.
Okay, so that must have been very jarring for your wife. How did she experience the attack?
Well, she was very at the time, she was very much Christian and all that kind of thing, and she didn't know what it was, and she didn't really believe in the explanation that what I had come through with. So it was what it was at that point.
So she had just felt something on her or scratch her face or
No, it was on her side. You could see
it
the
was on her
three. It was
side.
like three. You could see the three claw marks on her side. Yeah, and they were visible. They were very visible.
That's very disconcerting.
Oh yeah.
um, from your experience, since we're on the topic, how easy is it for people to receive, like to open themselves up, I guess should say, to entity attachments?
It can be as easy. I mean, just being who we are, unless you're actually actively protecting yourself from it, you're open to it. It's just, being, well, using this analogy, but being a glow light walking through life, there's entities going, oh, well, that kind of energy I like, and they'll just attach to you for a while, take a ride, and then jump off. Um, but there's no way of saying that you didn't have karmic, let's say, an agreement, contractual agreement before we came in to have this attachment for a period of time, and there are those as well.
Yeah. That's something I've definitely learned along the way. And I believe I've even talked about it here on the podcast over the last 6 years, is that sometimes these entities come in as teachers in a way through contracts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Basically, they steer your energy into where you need to be. And truthfully, I think if you're using it in a contractual form, I think it is more of an understanding and steering and guiding you through your lifetime, possibly to avoid harder lessons on a physical manifestation level versus an energetic manifestation level. It might be something along those lines.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I've never heard of it put that way before. That's an interesting way of looking at it too, as like one of the possibilities of why that's happening.
yeah,
Very interesting. And so you're creating these prototypes right now for helping people protect themselves from entity attachments.
yeah, and it's based off of the Archangel Michael pendant, which is it's shielding. So it'll actually create like an energy shield, like a body bubble shield, for energy wise. So it'll actually protect you from other people's energies and building energies. It's been anecdotally tested for electromagnetic interference actually at a MUFON event, which is actually really, really cool. The
Okay.
Michael was anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what happened is, like I keep on saying, it's like the meter it wasn't looked at to see what frequencies it was blocking. But when they actually took the meter up to the pendant, it went quiet in a room full of people with cell phones.
Oh, wow.
So it was doing what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. Like I said, I really want to go back to that MUFON event, try to find out who that guy was, and what was your meter. Um, and we're gonna see if we can find people that have meters and do some more experimentation with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Well, what have been some of the success stories then with people who've used your pendants or any of the technology that you're creating here?
oh, it's been all over the place. We have a young lady from Amsterdam. We met in Hawaii a couple weeks back at the conference there, and she was there talking about the event and the organizers and how much she really enjoyed going on, working with these people and all that. And she's like, yeah, I've always been energy sensitive ever since I was little. So I was born, she was like, I was born with this. So I've always felt other people's emotions, other people's energy. So she had one of the Michaels, and she goes, this is so comforting. I don't have to feel everybody's energy anymore. And she's like, I can even sleep better now. So, I mean, that's
Oh.
just one example. And a lot of times what happens is anybody that's like overly sensitive, it's just like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And what we find is, because these are, and they're intention tools, you're wearing one of these, and yes, you're not going to be bombarded by everybody's energy. You can literally, I can reach out. If you're in a crowd, I can reach out and look at you and get a glimpse of your energy without being impacted by it.
Out of curiosity, have you had
Yeah.
any stories or experience with these pendants and maybe children who are autistic because they're highly
Mm.
sensitive?
Not autistic because we haven't found anybody with autistic children to test it.
Okay.
But we have a friend who's actually has 11, she's like 13 now. He's had one for over, I think, a year now. And for him, he was extremely energy sensitive. And, it's what the fun part of it is, on a day-to-day basis, he goes, some days I can't feel it at all, but there's some days, oh my God, I need it. And there's basically what it's showing you is at some days, his energy levels are so high, he doesn't need it. And there
Mm-hmm.
are days where he's being bombarded that he really does need it. And it
Yeah.
just shows you when you're a kid how much if we can teach ourselves how to manage the energy when we're young, we won't need the tools. We just need to
Mm-hmm.
learn.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. But I can see though how this could be very beneficial to
Oh
help you
yeah.
until you do learn
Yeah.
to manage your own energy.
Yep.
And and that even goes to speak to everyone has a bad day.
Everybody has bad days.
Like sometimes you're like, I just don't have the strength today. I need to throw
Yep.
that on.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. That's part
Yeah.
of being human. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
part of being human. So the the Taurus openings, talk to me about um how Taurus openings come into this and how you're connecting with your energy tools and the jewelry.
Okay. Well, the first tool that I was making the the tensor rings in small ones for pendants, and I was actually wire wrapping different crystals into the middle of the tensor ring to get the energy out of it. So I was already experimenting with using crystals and tensors. Um, at which point Metatron came in and it's like, I need you to make some anklets using a tensor ring, 5 crystals, and wrap it with a copper mesh. And that's where the anklets came in. And the Archangel Metatron anklets are extremely, and I do mean extremely powerful. Um, if you are energy sensitive, you put these on and it closes your Taurus down. And it's really kind of interesting. If you think of our energy field as a giant donut,
Mm-hmm.
cap the top and bottom. So now your Taurus turns into a oval shield. So there's no energies that can actually make it into your field.
Okay.
So Metatron basically explained it as this, and when he was telling me how to make it, it's like this tool is to actually keep your vibration yours while we go through these times. And that's exactly how he said it.
That makes a lot of sense because everything's all over the place. It's very chaotic
Yeah,
right now.
it is. See if I can get this up here for you. Switch the screen real quick. Um, yeah, it's this right here.
Okay, that's the Metatron anklet.
Yeah, there's actually crystals inside of here, and
Okay,
the crystals are covered with the copper mesh.
got you.
So you have one on each leg. I mean, if you're super, super sensitive, that's what you'd put on. And that's why we have the angelic armor set. So those that are like walk outside of their house for anything and they just get overloaded, you would do the anklets and get a Michael pendant, and you have multiple layers of protection and energy cover, and healing and releasing. And that's where, that's what we're doing with that aspect of it. And
Oh,
it's, go ahead.
I was going to say, talk to me about the healing aspect of them because I understand that
Okay.
they're protecting your field.
Yeah.
How are they working with you on a healing level?
Okay. So this is the kind of the fun part that they've been educating me on.
Okay.
I've always known that they're intention-based tools. That has
Mhm.
never been anything other than that because before Metatron came in, or right after Metatron came in, Vivian and I were in Mount Sedona, and she was under energetic attack. So I gave her my pendant. She put it on, and I said, "Well, now tell the pendant to make you invisible to anybody do you harm." And the energetic attack stopped immediately. I mean, just dead stop. Thank you very much. Thanks for playing. Go away. That kind of thing. So we knew that they were energy tools, and they were extremely powerful and intention based. Um, what we've been finding out through clients is we can actually control them. So you put on a pair of anklets. The first thing you do is reset all intentions. That wipes them. Reset. Now they're yours. Now you tell
Mhm.
them to go to full power, and they just go on. A lot of people, when they first put them on, they get dizzy, they go out of balance, they feel their feet going through the floor, and it gets uncomfortable. So I'm like, okay, now tell them to go to your comfort level. and they power themselves down. It's the funniest thing. And you watch people, it's like there was a young lady in LA about a month ago. She put them on, she started getting dizzy. She was literally wobbling. And I told her, it's like, well, power them down to your comfort level. It's like, oh, that's better. But I like them at full power. It's like, well, make them go back to full power. And she did. And she started wobbling again. It was the funniest thing.
Wow. So do you actually give people kind of like an intention guidance, like kind of for lack of a better word, almost like a manual that on how to reset it or clear it, just
I'm
for
working
anyone
on
who's,
yeah.
like, because some people, there are people who are really used to this are going to know exactly what to do. But then
Yeah.
there's people who are just new into this and they may
Oh,
like,
yeah.
am I doing it right? Is this the right thing to say?
Yeah. I'm actually, I did a video out here outside yesterday. I'm working on that now. We're going to put that up on the website and on the YouTube channel for people. It's always been, the clear the intentions, and, you can use them as an intention tool, keep your, and pull things out and stuff like that. So I'm working on that for the reset and power up, power down. That's going on the website shortly,
Okay.
or on YouTube. But the different part of it is, and it's actually part of the video I did yesterday, is when you're wearing these tools. Now, these are very powerful in their own right. So when you power them up and power them down, they'll do crazy things. So you power them up and tell them, it's like, okay, I want to pull out emotional baggage that no longer serves me, and make sure you say with ease and grace. Um, uh, because it pulls it out by the roots, and it makes for pretty heavy baggage,
Okay,
and
let's pause
they
there
will
for a
pull it out.
second since we're there.
Yes.
Because have you experienced where you forgot to say ease and grace or someone else didn't say ease and grace? Like, what did they experience because of that?
Over just actually last weekend in Sedona,
Mm-hmm.
this lady was working on stuff. Actually, two ladies. We work on it, and we were doing the power up, power down. And it's like, okay, so now now tell it to release what you need to release in order to overcome the block you're having. And we didn't say with ease and grace. And literally, both of them started breaking down immediately, to the
Really?
point I
So
had to
like just
comfort them and hug them and all that other stuff. Oh yeah, they were just gushing. It was just they just let go. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was very powerful.
I just had so I've been working more with plant medicine. Have
Mhm.
you had anyone combine these with their plant medicine journeys or anything like that?
No, I have not. I would say that they would actually be very beneficial to that. Not knowing if you have protection when you're going into the plant medicines. That's why working with shaman is a
Mm-hmm.
almost a must with plant medicines, just so you can actually stay protected, because they know how to protect you going through the events. So if you're not utilizing that aspect, yeah, you need at least some level of protection.
Mm.
These shields that these tools create, everybody can do once you get to the understanding of what that kind of a field feels like. So you put on the anklets and the pendants. Now you all of a sudden you feel the energy. This is your energy. Now you can actually remember that, program yourself to say, okay, um, and it's like, okay, I want this feeling to represent an egg, and or whatever it is, it's an or a bubble, and just program yourself bubble, and it puts it up, and now you feel that way, and now you have to program your subconscious to just automatically do bubble. At that point, you don't need tools, because you just programmed yourself to have that feeling on the thought of bubble.
Got you. Okay. So like the tools are helping you create your own energetically.
Will help you understand who you are energetically,
Yes.
because it
Hmm.
blocks everything else out and allows you to feel your own frequencies, your own vibrations.
That's a big one because so many people don't know what's theirs and what's not theirs, and
Correct.
especially when you're empathic and you don't understand how to create your own energetic boundaries yet, you could be having a horrible day and think like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with me? And it's not even yours.
Correct. Yeah, it's when I talk to folks, I bring up this. There's a scene in the Celestine Prophecy movie, if you've ever seen it. The one in the garden when he meets the young lady for the first time
Mm,
and tries to introduce himself, and you see his energy overcoming her energy, and then she shuts down. that's what we go through every day if we're not used to it. It's like if you're going to work and all of a sudden your boss comes along, his energy is going to come over yours because he's the boss. So if you have the shields up, he might try to come over you energetically, and you're going to be like, "What can I do for you?" And that's it. Now you're
Mm.
responding to him, not his energy. And
Mm.
it makes a huge difference. You're no longer emotionally attached to whatever he's trying to push.
So has this really helped them with people's confidence levels and help them
Yeah.
navigate life at a more, uh, I don't want to say efficient, but efficient is one way of looking at it, but just more confident and more secure in what
Yeah.
they're doing?
Yeah. It's the tools actually create more of a calming sensation, a more confident sense, and more confident because you are you, and that's
Hmm.
it. You don't have to worry about anything else. I mean, you still have to go through your day and you still have to deal with everything, but you're not bombarded energetically. So your nervous system isn't literally trying to keep itself balanced at that point from all of the energy around you. So your whole physiology is more relaxed.
And what about if you've got a health issue? Have you seen people or even yourself use these tools to program it to help them move through health issues, to strengthen their energy field and to maybe pull out impurities? Like,
Mhm.
have you experienced with that any at all?
The impurities part, no. I know we have a bunch of people that are trying to utilize it now for different aspects of the health challenges we're going through now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably get more feedback on that over the next year or so. We do have a lot of folks that when they put on the tools, let's just say the anklets, for example. Um, I had a lady who had knee replacements. So when you have knee replacements, the chakras at the back of the knee are disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
So your flow of energy from your root chakra to ground is disrupted through your physical body.
Yes.
So she put on the anklets, and all of a sudden she just felt all the energy just flow straight through her, all the way to ground.
Oh,
Because that's a
that's
secondary of the anklets is grounding.
okay. And is there anyone who the anklets may not be good for?
um, well, they're only one size, so it depends on how big the person is. Like we had a giant football player trying to put him on at one particular time, and he couldn't even get him around. So it'd be like, okay, well, put him under a sock. If that's the case, but they will still work.
Yeah.
Um, and with once you understand the intention controls, your dials, you can tweak on them. They're for everybody. They really are, unless you have copper sensitivity or something like that.
Have you found people reporting increased intuitive levels when using these? Just because I would think if you're not being bombarded by other people's energy,
Yeah.
you're a lot clearer on how you can connect
Mhm.
with your own higher self. And
Oh yeah, for me especially, yes. Not being bombarded by other people's energies and emotions and stuff like that, it allows you to be more of a clear channel.
mm, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that would be extremely beneficial, especially for anyone who's, well, wanting to understand their own intuition first and foremost and learn how to develop it. But then also, like you said, like Metatron said, these crazy times that we're in, like
Yep.
as we go through all of this, you need to know
Yes.
what's yours and what's not.
Yeah. What's interesting is I find it when I'm wearing the tools, which I pretty much wear all the time. Not necessarily at home, but whenever I go out. But I'll wear a pendant pretty much all the time, like I was wearing it before we get on here. And when I'm paying attention to news, all the news lately seems to be broadcasting more of an emotional projection versus a newscast,
Mm,
telling you the facts. They're projecting emotional response.
yeah.
Um, and they're trying to elicit a specific response. So by having these tools on, you're not feeling that emotional push, and you can look at it go, okay, well that wasn't 100% truthful, and I didn't feel all that emotion behind it, and I can see where you're saying that, but not that piece. And you can work through a lot of the emotional, or what do you call it, the opinion pieces of it rather quickly.
Mm. I just, this has got to be really good for people who are easily emotionally manipulated.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's still challenging for them. It'll still be challenging for them because then they have to once they get to understand who they are energetically, then they
Mm-hmm.
have to build up the confidence internally. So that's the self-confidence piece.
Yeah.
But they can block, and that'll be good. Now, emotionally, they'll be able to be controlled. They won't be able to be emotionally pushed. You have to look at it as two different ways. So emotion, you'll have the emotional energy, but then you'll also have um, the emotional physical response. It's like you'll see them pushing, and you'll just respond because of previous programming,
Mm-hmm.
and not just their emotional push.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's one thing that I'm noticing, like, that's happening so much. And I think that even too, it's so programmed into us that even the people who are doing the emotional manipulating don't even realize that's what they're doing. Like, I
mhm.
mean, some people do realize it, but I think for the most part, a lot of people don't even realize that they're emotionally manipulating other people. They just, it's a program that they learned because it was done to them. And, it's,
Yeah,
and, but because I've been observing, I've been seeing it kind of pop up, and, not that it's been happening to me, but I'm observing it in other people. And I'm like, wow, this person isn't even realizing what they're doing right now. And so anyone who's kind of really starting to go deeper into their own healing journey, discovering who they really are, and even those who are coming into understanding what their purpose is or wanting to figure out what their purpose is, I can see how these tools would be very beneficial to that, because one, you start to clear out all the energy that isn't yours, that can really make things very confusing, in understanding who you are and what's yours. When you're in the healing aspect, I mean, just to know that it can help you pull out some of the emotional blockages. I think that's a really big deal,
yeah,
because a lot of those are unconscious or deeply embedded in our subconscious.
yeah. They're old, and the couple times that we've actually done that without ease and grace, the two women that did it, they literally said to me, I could feel it being pulled out, like through the pendant. It felt like it was being drawn through the pendant. It just felt like it
Wow.
was being pulled right out.
I can relate
So
to
yeah,
that. I can relate to that because I did my ayahuasca journey last summer, and I asked for a heart clearing, so that I could love more and open my heart and love deeper and all of that. And all of the purging felt like it was coming out of my heart, not my stomach.
yeah,
And that was all unconscious and subconscious crap that's been old, and who knows, probably carried in from past lives as well.
yeah. You wouldn't believe what kind of um, baggage we bring in from past lives, and it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think it's not intentional. Your higher self came in to help you, work through those pieces. Or it came through with you this time in order to actually keep the learnings that you had from that lifetime so that you can make it through this one. Because before you came into this lifetime, you're looking through all the library of your Akashic record going, it's like, okay, I'm going to bring that pair of socks, I'm going to bring that shirt. And that's
Yes.
what you were doing. You were packing for
Yes.
this lifetime, and you put all those
That's a,
little aspects in,
yeah.
and you just jumped in. It's like, okay, let's go. And that's it.
Yeah. It's funny. I one of my earlier episodes, I think it was in episode 51, I had a guest on, and he talked about it as like, yeah, you're shopping at the cosmic Costco.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is what I'm gonna need if I'm gonna take some of this for my life and that for my life. And it's true. You
Yes.
are kind of tailoring in a way whatever it is that you're gonna need, and you're choosing to bring certain programs in, some of them great, some of them not so great. But I also know that it's partly because you're going to be in a position to clear it this time.
Yeah.
Hmm. Which
Yeah.
is always important for people to understand. And I'm glad that you said that, we intentionally bring in these past life
We do.
experiences.
I mean, it's not a coincidence that we bring this stuff in. I mean,
Mm-mm.
when if you go through the stories that Brian Weiss, Michael Newton, and even Dolores Cannon talk about, is when we pass over, we go through this clearing. It's this rainbow energy that clears and heals the soul aspect of everything that we went through, so that we can actually remove all that, the gunk and garbage and all that stuff, and then we take the learnings and reintegrate it with our higher soul self, right? But we don't necessarily carry all that baggage with us. It's learning, and it's there. It becomes part of our Akashic record. But when we come into every lifetime, I'm not going to bring in, all the lifetimes I did in Egypt or Greece or in England or Ireland. I'm not going to bring in everything. There's no point. So, I mean, if we were unconsciously just bringing, everything would be there.
Yeah. It's like, why would you pack 10 outfits when you're only going for 3 days and you're not going
Correct.
to be able to wear maybe 5 of them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make
You're
sense
just
that we
paying for
just
extra
bring
luggage
it.
fees and you don't need to do that.
Yep. Yep. You
Yeah,
become
no,
overloaded. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. It's such an interesting way of looking at it. I just recently integrated a past life of a humpback whale that
Ah,
was not from this planet. It was a different planet, but utilizing it for a lot of my healing capacities going forward, but also the communication. Um, because what I didn't realize until after this all happened was that the humpback whales are the most vocal of the whales in the
yeah.
sea. And that after I integrated the whale, my light language started coming.
Yeah.
And I started speaking all this light language. And so it was interesting to incorporate that, and then knowing that the sounds, like just as we were talking about your friend who did the sound bowl healing and everything, and how important that is, that we're all capable of creating all these different tones and accessing different tones. And I think I was meant to be able to pull those tones in
Yeah.
and speak them. For whatever reason, it'll be more clear to me as I go along my journey. But integrating those past lives, sometimes we don't need them right away. We don't need to use them until later on in life when it's time.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's one of the things that we've learned, excuse me, over the last 6 months is a lot of times you'll have the downloads, the understanding, and everything is going to be a part of you already. But your higher self will not allow you to connect to those aspects, or let's say that program, until the timing is correct. It's almost like, if you want to look at it, it's like along the timeline, if you come in too early, it won't work right. If you come in too late, it won't work right. So you have to, at divine timing is when you get your stuff.
Oh, it's got to be one of the most frustrating and most
Oh,
beautiful
yeah,
concepts, right? Is divine
it is.
timing, because we all have our idea of what the perfect time might be without realizing how intricately organized and orchestrated everything is behind the scenes.
Right now, especially.
Yeah. Oh,
Everybody that
yes.
has the gifts, if you come out too early, you could get under attack, or it could diminish your voice, or it's gonna go on deaf ears because nobody's ready. So you have to wait until the divine timing comes across, and then from there, it's just like everybody will be like perfect. But until that point, we're the 5-year-old in the back seat going, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?"
No, but this is so true, because this happens where you may, for instance, you may try to execute an idea that you are certain this is what you're meant to do,
Hmm.
but whatever happens, however hard you try to execute it, just doesn't actually work out. Either if it's a business that you try to open that's a healing center and the people
Yeah.
just don't come and you have to close it down, or it's something else, whatever it might
Hmm.
be. And then you think, well, I tried that, it failed. And then maybe 5 years down the road, you're feeling this call to do it again, but you're like, but I already tried it. It's not what I'm supposed to do. And this is where we can kind of really get misaligned and misunderstood in how we're interpreting our timelines,
Yes.
is to think that just because it didn't work out then doesn't mean that it's not supposed to work out now. Maybe you tried to
Yeah.
execute it a little too early.
Yes. The one thing that we've come across is, if you're doing something and you consistently have a lot of pushback on everything you're trying to do, it's not the right time.
Yes.
If it all because what the minute you start doing something and it just starts to flow, that's the right time. But I mean, if you're starting to do something, it's like you want to open a store, but you had the problem with trying to get the floor space, or the landlord wouldn't do this and that we couldn't do that. And if you start seeing all, I mean, you're going to have some regardless. That's just typical business. But if you start running into major problems and you're just continue to push, 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 it's going to end up being something that's going to be out of alignment.
It's true. And I think that that's one of the hard things, is to discern, is
Yep.
this just challenges that I need to overcome, or is this really just not the right time? And I think when it's feels like you're almost going against yourself at this point, trying to get it to be executed, open, whatever it is that you're trying to get going. I know that happened to me in the early 2010s. I was trying to open up a whole body cryotherapy center, and had already invested a lot of my money. My business partner and her husband invested money. We were looking for investors. And this went on for 4 years. And I had multiple breakdowns of like, I don't understand why this isn't happening. I'm so excited about this. I can see it and all this kind of stuff. But truthfully, it's not that none of it was meant to happen. I learned so much through that process that I needed for today. But that wasn't the concept that I was truly. It's not that I couldn't have done it. I could have done it, but it wasn't in my highest purpose. It wouldn't have been where I really saw myself executing my full destiny. And that's the point. We also have choice. We have a lot of options to choose from. And it's not that one's more right than the other. It's just maybe where you're going to feel your most fulfillment from.
Yeah. This lifetime, in this era we're working in, those that are going to be of service will literally be guided and pushed into the right direction. So you were pushed into into a place where you were going to open a place and it didn't work out, but you had a bunch of key learnings that now you're using as a foundation.
Plus, it got me in touch with people in a completely different country that I needed to go to, and I met people through that whole process that got me to the country where I needed to be, because I was living in a completely different country as well. So it's just, you just never know. There's so many other. I think that's the other thing too, is that we only see one or two purposes in why something might be happening, like the reason why this is happening. And there could be infinite reasons. Like you would almost be exhausted trying to figure out all the reasons of why this happened.
Just last weekend we were in Sedona at a conference, and it's like it was going okay for a conference, but we ended up like, okay, so we ended up meeting up with this individual, that individual, and the networking value of that weekend was amazing. And never mind the conference, it was all the networking, it was the people we met. So it was like we went with the intention of going to a conference and doing, face to face, talking with people, introducing to the tools, because Vivian was speaking. And we were, it's just one of those things. And the next thing we know, it's like, wow, this weekend wasn't about us, or whether the pendants were being sold or anything like that. It was more of the connections we made with different individuals here and international this and that, and it was everywhere. It was all over the place. So you can't, like you're saying, you cannot dismiss the fact that where you're pushed in life is going to be what you intend it to be. It could be something completely different.
Oh yeah. And it's also like, what I also learned in that moment, or not in that moment, there were many moments along the way, but one of the moments that I learned was I was pushing so hard and giving everything that I got, that I had, my energy, my time, my finances, like whatever I could put into it, I was putting into it. And on top of everything I already had to do for my regular life, that I need just to like stay afloat. And I remember just collapsing on the kitchen floor in tears and just literally on my hands and knees and literally surrendering to God, the creator, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I said, I give up. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Like I'm going to let you tell me what I'm supposed to do now, because I just don't know. And within 10 minutes, the answer came, and it was the pivot that I needed. Now, it didn't get me to where I thought I was going, but it got me to where I needed to go to get the next pivot and then the next pivot. And it's just, you just never know. And sometimes those moments of surrender were vital to me in understanding that I try to control too much. And when I try to control too much, it doesn't go so well.
Yeah, I had the same experience. So back in 2016, I completely surrender. And just, it's okay. Where do we go from here? I have nothing. I have nothing left. So where do we go?
It's a hard place to be, but it's also a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, it's actually, it's liberating to let go completely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things. It's like, okay, I have done everything in my power, everything I can possibly do. I have no more energy. I have nothing left to give. What, I surrender. At that point, you would just allow. And one of the things I learned from that moment is the universe has a design. Basically, your higher self has the design for what you're supposed to be doing. And you have to allow and go with the, like, I'm a water element, so go with the flow.
Mm.
And, you know, every time you start getting resistance, try to steer it in a different direction, try to fall, go with the flow, because, it just makes it easier. And it just makes things a little bit, what do you want to call it? Well, we don't call it, the flow of it is actually really good, and allows you to learn things that you're supposed to learn without the extra stress. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I was trying to get to, the stress of it, because when you push too hard, you're actually overdoing your side of things when you don't need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, Peter, we're going through some pretty interesting times. And I
Oh
had
God, yeah.
this morning I had a thought come in. Maybe I don't even know if I want to call it a thought. Maybe it was just a download, an aha moment, it just appeared.
Yeah.
And I often hear that we are in the craziest times of humanity that we've ever seen, the hardest times. And I used to believe that. But when I stopped, I pulled my energy in the last couple of years. I pulled it away from really kind of paying attention to what's going on in the news and in politics and all of that, and really kind of got myself out of the polarization of didn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what side, just get yourself out of the polarization. And I just like put your focus on you, put your focus on what you want to create. What are your dreams? What do you want to manifest? Like you've got a mission. Don't let all that distract you. And over the last few years, there's been some incredible like shifts and growth and things that happened that I didn't even realize were even possible in some levels. And today, like I just thought, I feel like we're in one of the best times to be alive as a human, not because we're going through incredible changes, which I think is great, to be part of like these revolutionary changes and all of that, but things are it's not, I'm not trying to minimize the challenges that anyone is going through because we all have challenges. I just went through one of the hardest years in my life last year. By no means take this as me minimizing challenges, but the ability to take an opportunity and do something with it in this time is not like a lot of times that have come before us. Like we're able to create and build and really take an opportunity and run with it like never before.
Yes. No, we are living through a time where people are waking up, and it's been 40 years in the making. It's been going on for a very, very long time. People waking up slowly. It's, as like Doris Cannon says, the multiple waves of enlightened beings coming in, and we have a lot of enlightened beings now coming in, especially with the children, and their energy is pushing everybody's vibration up. So what we're coming through now is basically a purge. Everything, like you did your journey, everything is being purged right now. The
Mm-hmm.
truth is coming out. And a lot of things that were buried are coming out. So it's an awakening time. So people can actually, it's, everybody's worried about the political this or that or what's going on. It's like all you have to do is step back and then look at like the truth of the matter. It's like, okay, well, it looks like the truth is starting to come out. This is a good thing, and then let it go. We can't hold on to it. You hold on to it, you become part of the problem in, with the actual, that what they're trying to create, which is
Not,
divide.
yeah. And sorry, not only that, but if you're waiting to see the changes in the truth come out in the political world, you're probably going to be disappointed
Yes.
because you don't need the truth to come out in the political world for the
No.
political world to shift.
No.
And I think that's where people are getting kind of misguided
Yeah.
in that they like, I'm just waiting for the newspaper to put this out or this to be on this news station or like this politician to say that, or, screw them. They're
I know.
no more important than you, me, and anyone else in here. It's the conversations we're having with one another. It's the way we're
Yes.
interacting with one another. That's the big change.
Yeah. They're trying to polarize everybody on every aspect of being. So stop paying attention to them and just start being.
Yes.
And be and how they say it, just be a observer. Don't participate, just be an observer.
Mm-hmm.
If you read something, go okay and just file it away and move on. Don't attach yourself to the energy of it. It's just because right now it's just like Metatron says, you don't want to attach yourself to that energy. Be your own frequency and move on. Live your life.
Yeah.
Grow.
I mean, these outlets, the political sphere, the news, uh, indoctrination
Oh
that
yeah.
is on from both sides of the aisle, is just all it is meant to get you to contribute to that timeline. Whatever it is that is wanting to be created in that reality is just pulling your energy out. And so you kind of creating these tools that really helps people understand, what's my energy, what's that energy, that's not what I want. Like, you really start to understand, once you pull yourself out of it, how unimportant it really is when it comes to what it is that you really want to see happen.
Yeah, it's the narrative is being pushed and not what you need to be talking about. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do that, and it's just the wrong conversation we need to be having.
Exactly. It's the wrong conversation. It's the
Yeah,
wrong. And that's why I'm like, focus on the conversations that you can have with, your friends or your family, or, in any way that you can come together, find common
yeah,
ground. I think if there's any way to find common ground, it doesn't mean that you completely neutralize who you are and what you believe in, but, look for the common ground and the humanity within each and every individual, and what your own humanity is. And, what is it that you want to create, and how do you get there creating it? Because
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you experience this just in your own work and working with these materials, but when you're focused on your joy and your purpose, none of that stuff matters, because you're already doing the change on your end.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No,
Mm-hmm.
completely. And if you look at the history of the world, it's not the general people that start wars and have a problem. We don't have I don't have a problem with any individual over in Russia, but we have a problem with our governments. So the
Yes.
people in power tend to precipitate this type of emotion in this competition or whatever is going on. And
Mm-hmm.
it's real. I have nothing against the people. So when you look at it, the majority of the people on the planet can get along just fine. So
Mm-hmm.
when you get face to face with somebody, you're not going to have a conflict. That's not the way that works. It's usually somebody that has an agenda that's actually has the problem. So, work on ourselves, be pure in our energy, work what we need to be, and everything will be fine. And like you said, just unplug for a little bit and see what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. And for anyone out in the audience, if you're really wanting to understand what your own energy is like and what it feels like and what other people's is maybe doing to your own, you may want to check out Peter's anklets and pendants. Tell my audience where they can find you if they'd like to purchase your products or learn more
Yeah.
about what you're doing.
Well, the company is Energies of Service. You can find it, all in one word on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. The website is www.energiesofservice, all one word.com. And we have everything up on that, and it's actually I have pretty good descriptions up there. We have a few things that we need to put up on the site still, but we're working on that. I'm working on the description for the multidimensional still.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'll leave all those links in the description below so you guys can easily find Peter and all of his wonderful materials to wear and protect yourself and enhance your own energy and give yourself some breathing room in this time of chaos and
Mm-hmm.
messiness.
It is that.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and to everyone else too. Don't forget that I have launched the Forbidden Journey group coaching, which is going to start May 10th this year. If you'd like to join in, it's a 4-month coaching program, and I have designed it to mimic a plant medicine journey. All of the information is on my website if you need more, or you can listen to last week's podcast and get more information there. I love you guys. Have an incredible evening, and I'll be back with you next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.